It is Tuesday, April 7th. This is the Christian Commute. I am your host, Seth Dunn, and you are riding home with me if I can get out of the gas station parking lot. It is exceedingly crowded for a Tuesday, a spring break Tuesday at that. I'm not going home. I'm going to my parents' house because my wife took my kids on a little camping trip for spring break while I stayed to work. So I am all alone. And my parents think he can't take care of himself, so we're going to feed him dinner. I think they just want to spend time with me. Maybe it's half and half. But that's where I'm going. I'm going to my mom and dad's house. But everything else is normal. I have a full show for you today. Today's show title is Easter Morning Retrospective. And I have a question in the inbox about IVF, in vitro fertilization. I've covered IVF before, but this is about adopting IVF embryos. So we'll get to that after the Bible chapter review. And we'll get to the Bible chapter review after I remind you to give, pay, donate to the Y Project. YElevation.com, YRockBridge.com, YCrossPoint.com, YNorthPoint.org. Websites to warn people about Ayatollah of rock and roller, seeker-sensitive coffee bar goat churches in the Purple Haze, led by Pastor Electric Blue. And we'll touch on the influence of these type of churches, mainly through music, in today's show title when we get there. So don't forget about the Y Project. Let's get to today's scripture, Luke chapter 12, verses 13 through 15. Luke chapter 12, verses 13 through 15. Someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the family inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge over you? Who appointed me judge over you?" Then he said to them, "Beware against every form of greed, for not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions." Now Jesus is going to tell a parable to explain this statement, to give support to his statement about not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions. But I want to point out the mindset of this person. Oh, somebody was in my blind spot. Get out of my blind spot so I can get over. Somebody else is trying to get in it. There goes my show notes. They fell off the wheel. The Messiah is in front of this dude. The Son of God is there. And what does this guy want? He wants Jesus to give him a favorable opinion on some family squabble. So here we have a brother who feels shorted by his sibling. And he wants his brother to split his family inheritance with him. And Jesus is a popular teacher. He's a popular figure. He's been working miracles. So basically it's like this guy getting Dr. Phil's opinion. How about that? He's treating Jesus like Dr. Phil. Like everybody wants to listen to Dr. Phil, right? Dr. Phil, tell my brother what he should do. And Jesus' response is, "Who appointed me judge over you?" Now, Jesus is judge over the whole world. He's the Messiah. All power has been given to me on heaven and earth, he says. But this guy has tried to reduce Jesus to judging his petty family dispute. And Jesus points out, like, it's not my role. Who appointed me judge over you? See, Jesus isn't saying he's not fit to judge. Jesus is saying that this guy's little dispute I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with Jesus. I mean, it's really below him. He's looking to tell his brother, see, Rabbi agrees with me. You should do it. You should split the inheritance. Tell him he should split it. This guy's got a wrong-headed motive. He's thinking worldly thoughts. He's thinking of things. He's thinking about his, by the way, his inheritance. It's not even stuff he earned. Stuff his dad earned. He's thinking, I want what's coming to me, instead of seeking the wisdom of God from Jesus. He's caught up in the wrong thing, asking Jesus to be a judge over the wrong thing, and asking Jesus to get involved in his little petty family squabble. Sad. And with that, we'll end the Bible chapter review. Lord willing, on, I guess, Friday, we'll pick up there. And we'll cover the related parable in the pericope. But for now, let's go to the question in the inbox. It's Steve from Illinois again. And he says, my son and daughter-in-law have just announced that they're having a baby, and they've done so through adopting an embryo that somebody else had made. It's somebody else's embryo. It's not theirs. So there was another couple that wanted to conceive children through IVF, in vitro fertilization. So they had some embryos made, and they used 2 of them to have children. And now they don't want any more children, so they have these 2 other embryos that have been frozen for 14 years. And now Steve's son and daughter-in-law have taken one of the embryos and planted it in the daughter-in-law, and she's going to have a baby. So they basically adopted this unborn child, and she's going to birth the child. And Steve is asking, what are the ethics of this? What's the Christian ethic on this, basically? So let's rewind. Let's rewind to the parents of this embryo, of this unborn child. They're wrong, because what they did is froze their child for 14 years. Okay? So sometimes, and we've covered this before, for whatever reason, people have trouble conceiving, but they can turn to in vitro fertilization and have a baby that way. So what happens is they'll take the egg, they'll take the sperm, and they'll make embryos outside of the womb, because for whatever reason the people can't conceive the natural way. And then they'll implant that embryo in the womb, carry the baby to term, and have the baby. Now I'm going to say this. I don't think it's unethical, immoral, or sinful to make 1 embryo or 2 and implant the embryo and have your own genetic child. But and we've covered this before, here's how this works in practice. This is not cheap. Having sex is free. Even poor people have sex. Okay? I have so many kids, people used to say, don't y'all have cable? Say, because they're acting like, well, you ain't got nothing else to do, don't you have cable? And I'd always say to them, what do you think the kids are doing while we sneak off? Okay, they're watching the Disney Plus, they're watching Bluey. Okay. But the way this works economically, and this is really only wealthy people who are infertile can do this, is it costs thousands and thousands of dollars to have this done in a lab by doctors at the fertility treatment center. And sometimes pregnancies don't take. I mean, even natural pregnancies, a fair amount of them are miscarried or don't take. I mean, I've seen stats saying as high as 12% of pregnancies fail in the embryonic stage and beyond. Okay, sometimes they call it a chemical pregnancy. Sometimes a woman's pregnant and she doesn't even know because it never develops much past a couple days. Okay. So economically, since the failure rates or risk rates of losing an embryo are so high, they'll say, listen, we'll make one embryo for you for $10,000, but you can make 10 or you can make one. It still costs $10,000. So what will people do? They'll say, well, I got a chance of these failing. Let's say I got a 25% chance of the embryo failing. So basically they're thinking, I'm going to be out $10,000, 25% chance that I'm out $10,000. So I'll make 10 embryos. And then if the first couple, they'll implant let's say they'll implant 2, 3, 4, 2. We'll say we'll implant 2. And if those fail, we'll try again and we'll try again. And off my $10,000, my initial $10,000, I can implant 5 times. So what they'll do is they'll implant until it's successful. Now, some people use all 10 and they never have success. But let's say somebody strikes, like they're drilling oil, I struck, and they have a healthy baby to term. They implant the first 2. Say one of them takes and is born. They got 1 kid. They say, all right, we're going to wait a couple of years. We're going to have another kid. Now, those fail. And they're going to wait a couple of years. They're going to have it there. Well, they don't wait a couple of years. All right, those fail. Let's try again. And then they have the kid. Let's say they implant 2 again. One lives, 1 dies in the womb. Now they got 2 kids living, born, and they have 4 embryos living and frozen. So they have frozen these human beings. And they're going to sit frozen at the fertility clinic forever and ever until the freezer breaks. I guess I don't know what the shelf life on an embryo is. So basically it's like you have these frozen people trapped and their parents don't want them because they were just extras. They were just backups. They're like kids you carry in an all-star tournament. You don't really want them on the field. They just help pay the fee. Okay? Sit there. At least the kids in the all-star tournament are alive and get to watch. So that, by the way, is unethical. That's wrong. You're creating people they're going to die. You're essentially condemning your kids to death. Those embryos are going to die. You're not taking care of your kids because they're frozen in a freezer and they're not developed. How can you raise your children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, if they are an embryo in a freezer? Okay. But here's what some people will do. They'll come along and say, what we're going to do is we're going to rescue these embryos. We'll adopt these children and we'll place the children in our womb, and then we'll have the baby and we'll raise it as our own, just like adopting a kid. Now I go back to economics again because I'm an accountant and I don't know. It's like, wouldn't it be cheaper to just get a kid who's already born? Because that's really hard to carry a baby to term. It's very inconvenient to be pregnant, and it's like one of the things is it's like if I was going to have another baby, I would just impregnate my wife myself and have my own child. Now we can't have any more babies because my wife has had too many C-sections. But I don't know. I don't know the situation of this couple. Maybe they're infertile too. So they'll say, hey, you're probably paying $20 a month storage on this baby. Give it to us. This embryo, give it to us and we'll have it. You're not going to use it. So in the same way as the early church used to rescue abandoned babies in Rome to preserve their lives, because Christians are pro-life, now in modern times, couples will rescue these frozen embryos who are otherwise just eventually going to expire when the power goes out. And they're abandoned. They're abandoned by their parents. So why somebody would choose to adopt an embryo instead of a fatherless child out of the foster system, I don't know. I guess if you're in the foster system, you're alive and at least the state or foster parents are taking care of you. Where if you're a frozen embryo, you're totally abandoned. So, Steve, I really can't see anything sinful or unchristian about rescuing these embryos, because that's what it is. It's a rescue, and they're adopting somebody who's otherwise going to die. I mean, it seems like quite the opposite. It seems noble and heroic. I will say this. The people in this embryo business are they're evil people, right? That it's like being a pornographer or owning a strip club. Let's say you own a strip club and it's got a breakfast buffet, and it's like, wow, this is a great breakfast buffet. Like, we're really contributing to helping feed the town and having a good breakfast buffet at the strip club. Well, but yeah, but it's a strip club. Anything you do good is overshadowed by being a smut peddler. So they're getting the embryos, and I assume they're getting the embryos implanted by the very wicked people who created the extra embryos to begin with. And unlike I was about to say unlike abortionists, because abortionists know they're killing people. I was about to say abortionists know they're wicked. But maybe a lot of these abortionists, they just think they're great. I'm women's rights. I'm helping women. These IVF doctors are wicked. But I'm sure they tell themselves, I help people. Look at all these babies who wouldn't exist without me, and all these couples who wouldn't have children without me. And they probably have pictures of all these children in their office door. Well, what about the embryos in the back? You got pictures of those? No. So I would say the only caveat to doing this is you're perpetuating the business of the wicked IVF doctors, right? Because they're the ones doing it, you know. And I don't know everybody's situation. Maybe somebody goes and rescues these babies for free. You know, what you don't want to perpetuate or subsidize a wicked industry. So that's the only moral qualm I could come up with in my head. It's like you're basically giving an out to these wicked doctors. You're giving them more revenue. But when it comes down to it, you're saving a life and you're giving a kid a life. I would not say it's unethical or sinful to do that. And I'll say this again, I think IVF is woefully under-taught or not covered well enough at the local church level. You got pews full of people who say, we're pro-life, we're against abortion, but then they'll create 10 kids and leave 5 of them frozen. Stop, don't do that. That's wrong. I think people don't even ask their pastors about it, and a lot of pastors don't bring it up. And this is a sensitive thing to bring up too, because you're telling people who don't have kids, that's the worst thing in the entire world. Let me tell you something. Because I'm married and I'm a parent. Not being able to have kids is the worst thing in the world. Because how do you know that, Seth? Because I know what the best thing in the world is having kids. I have kids, okay? All what the Bible says about the quiverful blessing and whatever is absolutely true. It's absolutely right. I wouldn't trade my kids for anything. Not the thousands and thousands of dollars they cost me or billions. I would trade my kids for anything. Being a dad and getting to be a dad with my wife who's a mom is the greatest thing ever. And the worst thing ever is not having kids. Now, somebody out there said, well, what about having cancer? What about being a paraplegic? I'm going to die some way. I might wreck the car on the Christian commute because somebody's in my blind spot. I might die of skin cancer like my granddad did. I might get Alzheimer's and die of that like one of my grandmas did. I might break a hip and finally give out at 91, like my other granddad did. And I'm not sure what killed my other grandma. She was just old. I guess nothing, just old. Maybe I'll die of old age in my bed, like my other grandma. I don't know. But what I will do and have done for as long as God's allowed me to have this time with them, is enjoy my kids and love my kids. So it's so, I'm getting at it because it's so sensitive. You don't want to be a pastor going to these people who, I mean, it's a curse. It's a curse to not have, I don't know how to say it. They're like accursed and barren. That's horrible. You're talking to these barren people, they're downtrodden, and they have $10,000. Why do they have $10,000? Because they don't have any kids to spend the money on. So they're just sitting on all this money. It's empty. What, are you going to go on another cruise? You going to buy more clothes? You don't have any kids. So these people, they can afford it, they want to do it, and the pastor says, no, but you don't do it, it's sinful. And they don't cover it with them. Because it's just like kind of putting the screws to them. It would be something like somebody's got a disease that some Nazi doctor figured out the cure for. Like, you don't want to use that cure. Nazi doctor tortured a Jew to death to get it. Sorry, can't use it. You know. By the way, I don't think that's a one-to-one situation. I'm just trying to come up with somebody's like, somebody said, I have a solution to the worst thing in my life, and you're telling me I can't do it? Right. Just like, see how you're poor and you don't have any food or clothing? It's still not right for you to steal to live. Sorry, Jean Valjean, don't break window panes and steal bread. You still have to go to jail. My sister's child was close to death. We will starve. You will starve again unless you learn the meaning of the law. I know the meaning of those 19 years, a slave to the law. 5 years for what you done, the rest because you tried to run. Yes, 62401. My name is Jean Valjean, and I'm Javert. Do not forget my name. Do not forget me. 24601. Listen, Jean Valjean should have been in prison. I know Javert's the bad guy in Les Mis, but don't steal. Having a hard time doesn't justify doing something wrong. But it's easy to sing Broadway in the abstract. It's not so easy sitting down with people who are going to do it anyway. You just lose a church member, pastor. That's how these pastors think. They're going to do it anyway. I'm just going to lose a church member. So, yes, the church is woefully uneducated about the ethics of that. You shouldn't create people just to kill them or not take care of them. Parents are supposed to nurture their children. Okay? You're not nurturing your child to leave it in a freezer. And if you save an embryo baby from a short, undeveloped life in a freezer, then I think you're doing a good thing. All right, let's move on to Easter morning retrospective. As usual, I spent the Easter holiday at my in-laws' house. We go visit them for Easter every year, which means we go to my mother-in-law's church. Now, they live in a small town. And like if you're going to where they live outside of Athens, Georgia, you get on Highway 29 once you pass Athens Technical College and you go through Hull, Georgia. And Hull has a Baptist church. All right? And you're going to pass Danielsville. Danielsville has a Baptist church. Then you're going to go to Colbert where they live, and Colbert has a Baptist church. And you go further down the road and you go to Comer, and they have a Baptist church. So imagine all these little towns, these little agrarian towns dotting the highway, not the freeway, the highway, and they all have a Baptist church. And there's people there who just, I guess they go to that Baptist church because it's the Baptist church in their town. All right, so my mother-in-law goes to Colbert Baptist Church. And I had pledged once to never go there again because Brother Brad could not preach his way out of a wet paper sack. And I was not going to subject myself to one more sermon from Brother Brad, who's the type of pastor who could only get a job at some podunk church like this. All right? But Brother Brad retired, and they replaced him, so I'd go back. All right? So my mother-in-law said, do you want to go to the sunrise service? I said, there's a 0% chance of me going to the sunrise service. Now, I've talked about these sunrise services again. If you want to have one, have one. Have a million church services. It's not bad to have church service. On paper, ostensibly, the idea of the sunrise service is this is the time of day it was when they found the empty tomb in the cool of the morning. I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the roses. And the voice I hear singing in my ear, the Son of God discloses. Right? You're in the dew of the morning in the fog, and it's the same time that the women got there to find the empty tomb. That's the idea, right? You know why they really have sunrise services on Easter? Because people are about to go on spring break and they don't want to leave for their trip at 1 o'clock. They want to leave at 9 o'clock. So they go to a sunrise service at 7, and then it's time to do Easter egg hunts and brunch and travel and all the stuff they want to do with their family. See, y'all thought sunrise services were some extra holy thing. If they are, why don't y'all have them every week? No, there's an economic and cultural reason for it. And you know who's not waking up at 6? I didn't get up for sunrise any other day. I'm not getting up now. Now, there was a temptation to get up because Colbert Baptist has a big breakfast every Easter after the sunrise service, in between the sunrise service and the regularly scheduled 11 o'clock church service. I was like, that'd be a really good breakfast, but I'm not going to wake up. And I'm not going to be the guy who just shows up for breakfast and doesn't go to the sunrise service. I have standards. Okay, we're living in a society. But if anything, the sunrise service, logistically, it thins out the herd at church. Because I never like to be a guest at someone's church and it's busting at the seams. I'm like, whose pew am I in? But no, since people go to the sunrise service and the church doesn't get full, another thing, it's a small town church. It's not full of people ever. There was plenty of room on Easter Sunday. And not squeezed in there like Indian people trying to get on a train, okay? That's Indian, not American Indians on a train. That's not a thing. I'm talking about if you ever look at Indians trying to get on a train, they're hanging off the side, okay? And I'm going to tell you this. This is where we get into touching on the Why Project. That church has changed since the first time I ever went. I married my wife in 2008, I guess. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. Whenever the last time Alabama played Tulane and Georgia played Central Michigan on the same weekend, I think it was 2008. That's when I got married. I've been married a long time, obviously. But I was engaged to my wife for years before that, because until I got out of college, and she had to finish college. So I would have went to this church the first time probably around 2003. Because my wife lived in Athens and I went to UGA, so I would go spend the weekend with her family and I would go to church with them, and that's where they went to church. Okay. When I first started attending this church, there was a choir, people in robes. Okay. I don't want to say things have evolved, things have changed. Now the choir is gone. The style of music has changed, and I think this church already had one split over music style years and years ago. And now they have the stage it's full of praise band people. There's people on the mic, there's a drummer, there's a keyboardist, there's a guy with a saxophone, there's a bassist, there's a guitarist, and then there's a bunch of people with mics, and they're full up praise band. And when I first started going, they had a music minister who, like, if you were to say, AI, I want you to draw me a mix between a used car salesman and a small town music minister, it would draw this guy, okay? And he'd wear a suit, okay? But now they have a guy in jeans and sneakers who's the music minister, and he plays the keyboard, and I think he's a full-time employee. I think the other guy used to be like a half-time, 5-0 guy, okay? And he assumes the stance. You know you're going to hear Elevation, Y Church, 7-Eleven music when you walk in and you see the stance, okay? of the keyboard guy. You can see it from a mile away. So you know how you have a batting stance? You keep your back foot planted, got your hands up, all right, you got the bat, move back behind your head, and you're going to only move your front foot. You step with your front foot, you're going to twist your hips, you got a stance, okay? You got a stance to play tennis, right? You move your feet, you bend your knees. Now, there's a stance for sports. I play all of them, so I can tell you. I don't play hockey. I'm sure there's a stance for how to slap a hockey ball. There's a stance for the 7-Eleven keyboard man, okay? He's got the keyboard in front of him. He has his dominant foot stuck out forward, and then his non-dominant foot is behind him. All right, so he's like almost like he was going to do a split, because you know you can do the sideways splits or the front way splits, right? He's leaned over. He's created a large base, like he was going to carry something on his shoulders, but now he's leaned over because he's leaning back and forth, right? Because he's going to jam out. He's rocking like Leo Mazzoni. And he's got his hands in front of him, and he's assumed the stance to go boom, 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 boom. We turn graves into gardens. Boom, 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 boom. And you lean forward and you pound the keyboards, and then you get to the 7-Eleven part of the song where you chant, and you lean back. You're the only one who can. And then you lean forward, boom, 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 boom. And then you lean back and you do the chant. Your death was arrested and my life began. Oh, hey. You know what? Sometimes I think, one day I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Remember Bunsen and Beaker from the Muppets? And Bunsen could talk, but Beaker just went meep, meep, meep. One day I'm going to go to one of these churches. I'm going to get on the front row when he assumes, the keyboard guy assumes the stance and starts playing North Point music, and I'm just going to sing like Beaker from the Muppet Babies. Beep 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 beep. I'm just going to make the sounds, because this is the two you can do it to anything. Meep 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 boo 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 boo. So you can imagine how I felt, because this church that used to not play this music, now they're playing it. So they played a North Point song, and they played an Elevation song. In between was, I think, Michael W. Smith, and I didn't have any problem. He's not Stephen Furtick. I don't know if there's anything wrong with him. He's just some dude. It's that song, hallelujah, holy is the Lamb, holy is nothing. Lyrically, that song is fine. Worthy is the Lamb, worthy is the Lamb. But they played the North Point song about when death was arrested and my life began. I'm free, free, I'm chanting at you. All these songs are the same. They got to have a chanting part where everybody screams out. And then the Elevation song, he's like, you may have heard this on the radio. I'm like, crap, here comes Elevation. I hadn't heard it. I Googled it. All right. I'm sitting. The church service started at 11. And listen, they played music for 30 minutes. The sermon started at 11. I can remember my daughter asked me, what time is it? She wasn't trying to leave. She's just like, what time is it? So the welcome announcements and singing portion, 30 minutes, and it was 3 songs. So you can imagine the jam out. It's jam time. So I'm sitting there, and I have a website, whynorthpoint.org, that tells people, don't go to North Point. Andy Stanley's wicked. He's a false teacher. It's a false church. Get your family out of there. I took the time to make a website, the Y Project website. And then I have YElevation.com. Same thing. Stephen Furtick's a false teacher. Get away from him. And then for Easter, because you know every church is trying to put their best foot forward on Easter. This is Easter. They've practiced for this. The praise team has practiced for this more than anything. It was more planned out than any sermon they've done all year. And they have blue jeans and tennis shoes guy Get up there, assume the stance, and do 30 minutes of elevation in North Point. The very people I'm trying to warn people against. And it's infectious, guys. I've told y'all a million times, and I'm telling you again, it gets in your church. And you might think you have some small town church that's immune to it because they don't turn out the lights, and they don't meet in a warehouse, and they couldn't attract 20-year-olds because there's no 20-year-olds there. And let me tell you something. If you're in the area of Athens, Georgia, and you're trying to do cool church at one of these churches that's been there for 75 years, these small town churches, stop. You're gonna lose. Okay? Because it's Athens, man. It's full of young people, and it's full of all these little pop-up churches, one more hip than the next, trying to get that student population. And if you don't think people will drive right by your little highway church to go to Warehouse Church, you're fooling yourself. So number one, besides Hillsong and Elevation and North Point just being evil, forget about that for a second. If you're trying to compete with the Warehouse people, they'll beat you. Your 50-year-old bald guy is not going to compete with the 3 hipsters they have over there singing North Point. They got better lights than you. They got more volunteers with you. You can't beat them, so stop trying. Okay? That's the pragmatic part of it. You're going to fail anyway. Okay? You lose. But now let's get to the theological part. You have trashed your church service. It used to not be that way. But now it's a 30-minute concert followed by a 20-minute sermon. Why are we here? I'm here because I'm here with my mother-in-law. I'm being a dutiful son. And my mother-in-law is 70. And here's what gets me. There's a whole cadre of 70-year-old people who've been at that church for years who just are sitting there and letting it happen and paying for it because they're convinced this is going to get young people in. This is the new way to do it. Get rid of Jeans and Tennis Shoes Keyboard Man right now. Because Jeans, and I'm not talking about this one church, I'm talking about all of them trying to be this way. Trying to knock off Elevation and play these songs off the radio. You have hired Jeans and Tennis Shoes Man to be a leader at your church. His title is pastor, music pastor, or something like that, right? Even if it's ministry. You're paying this guy for his skills in worship. This is a man who sits in his car and listens to this Elevation garbage and thinks, let me foist this upon the sheep of my congregation, instead of warning them against Stephen Furtick. And if Stephen Furtick walked up in that church in his $2,000 sweater and tried to preach about Legos and modalism, I bet they would literally run him out of town with pitchforks. Okay, it's a country church, but they'll put his band in there, and the wannabe band leader. Do you think 50-year-old Jeans and Tennis Shoes Man could get so much as get a music internship at Elevation? Forget it. You're coming at people with 4-stripe Adidas versions of the 7-Eleven Praise Mega Music. So you're doing the wrong thing and doing it poorly. And I would say I don't know who needs to hear this, but I do. It's everybody with any sense over 35 years old at Colbert Baptist. Okay? Fire that guy and start doing church right. And by that I mean Get the music from heretics out of your church. And by the way, it's not just that it's music from heretics, it's that your church service has become concert driven. So now it's concert driven. It's not even a good concert, and it's concert driven. Okay? You're shortening the sermons week to week to play this radio music. So your people are just getting dumber and dumber. And it's the very young people who need to hear the word exegeted, who are being failed. All right? And if the guy you got preaching for 20 minutes can't give you a 40-minute exegetical sermon, and he's trying to cover it up with music, get rid of him too. You guys have lost it, okay? And I'm talking to all these little churches that this is happening. You've lost the idea. You think church is being about getting people to come by being like the people who are good at getting people to come. It's supposed to be about worshiping God. It's supposed to be about discipling people. You know what you're creating? It's a bunch of milk puppets. Milk puppets. They choke on meat if you gave it to them. And they move their mouth like little puppets at the 7-Eleven songs. You know who's a puppet? Bunsen and Beaker. Maybe I'll retitle this Milk Puppet Baptist Church. Easter Morning Reflection or Milk Puppet Baptist. I might go with Milk Puppet Baptist Church. All right. It's not too late to get rid of these people and start doing church right again. Thanks for listening to the Christian Commute. Lord willing, I'll be back with you again Friday. As always, God bless. As always, remember, Christianity is not about getting saved. It's about being saved.